interesting plenary session with such distinguished speakers. It is my honor to invite Mr. Blas Umek, Senior Consultant and Product Services Manager from IBCO, to present his standing related to creating customer and market values in telecommunication industry in Kosovo. But before that, I would like to introduce also my co-moderator, Professor Dori Pavlovska-Georgievska. I know that moderators are to be creative because we keep up the timing and we interrupt very interesting discussions, but due to the time efficiency, we kindly ask you to present your standing up to 10 minutes, okay? And then we will receive questions and contributions, perhaps during the lunch breaks and coffee breaks, because we are running a bit of time. So please, the floor is yours.
Okay, so good afternoon. It seems like I have this ungrateful position of being the presenter just before lunch. I'm sorry, I'll try to keep it short. My presentation is not aimed for 10 minutes, but I'll try to speed it up. So, maybe just a few things first about IBCO. Most of you probably know the company. Now it will be, I think next week, it will be 16 years since IBCO turned on the first internet in Kosovo, and up to now, IBCO is considered really a digital company serving more than 1 million customers through its 18 stores and a lot of dealership network. The whole ecosystem of IBCO has 500 employees, and the whole ecosystem employs additionally 3,000 more. We launched first in Kosovo 3G and 4G networks less than 2 years ago, and we are considered an innovator in terms of the product and services. Maybe just a few words about me. I have more than 11 years experience in the telecommunication industry. I started working at the ISP, then moved to Telekom Slovenia, where I dive deep down into the technical. I'm more of a technical person, a gadget freak, you know, a gadget lover. I really love technology. But then I started to move slowly more and more into the business, meaning into the product development, project management, and product management. Since 2011, I've been at IBCO as a consultant. I'm leading projects, I'm managing product, and recently I became a manager for the product development unit, dealing with this kind of products that I will just discuss about with you. These were some of the few products which were managed by me, which was IBCO TV, the first over-the-top platform in Kosovo, shop.ibco.com, first e-commerce solution in cooperation with ProCredit Bank, and others, various managed services and business solutions for the customers. Okay, so to keep it shorter, I'll skip a lot of the theory to share with you maybe some interesting facts. Just as a term of the ICT, just the term in the glance. When I started in the telecommunication industry, there was an IT and there was telecommunication. And obviously in the past few years, 5 or 10 years, this has changed. So now you cannot have IT without the communication part present, and vice versa. You cannot really offer any more just telecommunication services and not thinking about IT in terms of software, hardware, and delivery. If you really think about it, just like a mind exercise, how many of the IPOs in the last 10 years, initial public offerings, or how many those billion-dollar deals that you heard about were not technology related? So I really think that this brought a complete change in the global economy. It's also my opinion that not investing in the ICT, it's just not an option, regardless of the business. This is just a bit of for perception. In just 15 years, the number of internet users grew to almost half of the world population. So the world is flat, obviously not in the literal sense, but in the business and from the business and technology perspective. Because now every single player, every company has now the opportunity to address the global market. However, the companies can also decide using the ICT to address just local market, but they have to be aware that the competition is global, meaning you might think about the local market only, but there will be most probably other global players wanting to attack your market as well. And we see now the trend in the industry, in our ICT industry, the mixture of the different business models. These are some cases I took. The first two are from Slovenia. Telecom Slovenia, my previous employer and the largest telecom in Slovenia, just recently started to offer e-health services, which has actually nothing directly to do with telecommunication, but it has to do with ICT. They're providing the personal care devices which connect through Wi-Fi, through 3G or 4G, and with the accompanying app, so you can measure your activities. The other interesting example was Post of Slovenia, which is, you know, as the Post here in Kosovo, it's a post office, but they figure out they have a lot of points of sales, a lot of shop. They invested in their own data center architecture, and they recently started to sell it. So basically, Post of Slovenia is now selling data center capacities like Amazon, Google, and similar. And just maybe the other two global examples, most probably everyone knows them. Netflix started end of 90s, you know, as a video rental service. They basically rented the DVD through the post, through the email, through the ordinary mail. But now, just in last year, they invested over $3 billion into the original content, meaning that the business model changed for them completely. And last but not least, Amazon. Everyone knows Amazon, obviously. It was one of the first, the original internet companies. They started selling books, basically, just as an e-commerce solution. But now, similar to Netflix, they also provide their own original content. They're thinking about drone delivery. And interesting fact, they were actually the first company publicly offering infrastructure as a service model, meaning they were, in 2006, they started to selling virtualized server to the customers. Again, it has nothing to do with their original mission and vision. Now, I'll be quick with this slide. It's just how the mobile broadband and the investments in the mobile broadband impact actually the whole economy. This is a study from 2012 done by Deloitte. As you can see, it was done in several companies. And you can see here that on average, basically what they did is just that measure. If where in the countries where the speed, where the mobile data usage was doubled, meaning when consumers doubled their mobile usage, they saw the direct correlation with the GDP. And on average, the GDP grew around 0.6%. As a similar case, I took the case of Egypt. I find this really an interesting example because Egypt, interestingly, is very similar to Kosovo in terms of GDP, not in terms of population, it's quite bigger. But in terms of GDP and in terms of mobile market, there's a lot of prepaid. The salaries are kind of on the average part as Kosovo as well. They did the study, it has to deal without the spectrum for the new 4G. They did the study that showed, actually directly correlating, if the Telecommunications Regulatory Agency of Egypt would allow a new spectrum for the existing mobile providers, new mobile providers, to come up with the new services, that this will have an impact of almost 4% on the GDP by 2030. 4%. And directly and indirectly, this spectrum would additionally support 1.2 additional jobs would be created just because of new spectrum would be added by the government. So, slide just apps as a part of the ICT. You most probably are also familiar with this kind of statistic. There are a lot of apps in the Apple App Store. I specifically choose the example of iOS, not Android, even though the Android has a larger global share. But just to see a bit for the perspective, just in 2014, $10 billion were generated out of apps. And here I found an interesting example. It's actual statistics and the prediction. And you can see for 2014, it was predicted that 7.8 billion of those dollars were created by free applications, not paid applications, but actually those who are considered free in the App Store. As we all, as users of smartphone, we know there is no such thing as a free application anymore. More or less, everyone uses the freemium model. So yeah, everything is about the cloud. I personally don't really like this term because it got overused in the past several years. But actually, not all of you are aware. All of us, most probably, maybe you are a bit younger, but I remember I was We were all cloud users since 1996, but no one mentioned the cloud at that time. The term the cloud is less than 10 years old. But Hotmail was the first public free email service which you could use as a user. And it was one of the first really cloud applications. So you had to use some kind of connection to use this kind of services. It didn't work without the internet. You had to log into some web portal. There was some infrastructure behind it that you as a user didn't care and didn't see, where those emails were stored, that you could read them and send them. So actually cloud is not a new thing. And every one of us uses the cloud on a daily basis. Even if you're not directly using Dropbox or Google Drive, every time you open Google or you open Gmail to send an email, basically you are using the cloud services. Like it or not, this is how it is. And now, obviously, the price-performance ratio is perfect now because storage is cheap, disks are cheaper, everything got cheap, and at the same time, the end-user terminals, they got powerful as well. If you remember from my previous example, as before, Netflix, they recently started to offer 4K video, meaning Ultra HD video. And I had this problem because this requires quite a lot of bandwidth, which is currently not available. So they had to compress these videos, and the only thing that this is possible is at the end user terminal, there has to be a device which decompresses it, and this device has to be powerful. This is possible today, which was not possible a few years before. Internet of Things. I think that Cisco coined this term a few years ago. They called it Internet of Everything, but it somehow got into the Internet of Things. Or as we call it in the industry, in the telecommunication, we just call it simply machine to machine. Internet of Things means all of the communication which is done device by device, meaning non-human communication. It may sound quite futuristic, but as you can see where we are now in 2015. Already there are more machine-to-machine internet communication that we as all humans in the world do right now. And this is anticipated to grow quite as well. With smart homes, smart fridges that will tell you ran out of milk. With government and infrastructure, smart cities, smart traffic lights, everything, I don't know why it's called smart, it's just connected. And connected cars, and of course, obviously also in the enterprise. The machines will surpass, if you can see, the total device growth prediction for just the next 4 years. It will surpass quite a lot of, I think that the global population is destined to be somewhere around 8 or 9 billion, and this is how many machines will use the internet. Many more than humans. So, I prepared for you the two interesting cases, which are actual cases now from Slovenian companies. They sound quite futuristic, but at the same time, they're very simple to use for the user that uses them. The first one is farming with Google Glass. So there is a company called Datalab. It's an IT company in Slovenia. They figure out a way that they can combine all the sensors that you can put on plants, monitor them, to put on cows, and at the same time use Google Glass with augmented reality. So as a farmer, it would help you grow better products. I mean that your plants will perform better. You will know all the time where your cows are located, to put on cows, and at the same time use Google Glass with augmented reality. So as a farmer, it would help you grow better products. I mean that your plants will perform better. You will know all the time where your cows are located, every time, all the time, the movement of the cows. And when you would look at them, you would see immediately the statistics. And they also presume that you can use the same part, the Google Glass. You know what is the Google Glass, right? Those kind of projecting glass. That it can use also for consultation purposes. And it really sounds futuristic, but from the perspective of the farmer who would be using this kind of service, this really enables him to focus on production, to focus on his business, doing the business better. This is how it kind of look. They created an actual demo. It was done in Switzerland this year. This is how it would look like if you would look at the cow. It would immediately recognize, okay, this cow is named Erika, and those are the consumption, because everything is measurable. The other thing, which is more interesting maybe for you, the younger, because I'm not aware if we have here in Kosovo the same part, but in Slovenia, for the insurance companies, for driving, there is a special premium where you are a young driver. For the first 3 years, you have to pay additional fee because you as a young driver are statistically tend to be more reckless. You will most probably do some, accidents. You're most likely to do accidents. So this is why the largest insurance company called Triglav, they develop an app for youngsters, which enables you basically to save on your insurance. The only thing that you have to do, so as you can see, it's a quite complicated thing. So you have this whole cloud infrastructure calculating, and the app is all of the devices gathering data from different sensors, GPS, accelerometer, and uses the mobile broadband to communicate. But from the end user perspective, it's very simple. You just open the app and you save money, and this is it. If you drive nice, if you don't drive recklessly, if you drive under the limit, you will actually, after 300 kilometers of vehicles, you can get a discount. And this is not some kind of futuristic example. This is out now. You can download the app and you can actually use it. And it's a hit with young people, of course. So, to finish up, because I have to be fast and you're hungry, most probably. In IFCO, we are, ICT is not something new for us. Even before I came here, there were a lot of investment from, in 2007, the complete data center was renewed according to the latest Western Europe ISO standards. So we have one of the best data centers in the immediate region, comparing Kosovo, Macedonia, and Albania, with all the redundancy, fire safety, according to all the ISO standards. We, as IFCO, we are already offering the managed services, different kind of solution for the company, starting in physical layer, meaning we can do the cabling for you, and moving up. You can do the switches, the routers, the wireless, basically all of the solution. And we have many companies that we did this for them. And regarding the platform, we are just building now our own cloud platform, but we are already using so you can actually, we have it in the price list, it's already available to purchase the infrastructure as a service. So you can purchase virtualized models, and at the same time, we are already cooperating and building up and growing the cooperation with local, regional, and global companies to create new software solutions, which will be software, and we as IPCO, we are good at what we do, meaning the ICT. We'll take care about the infrastructure, and we'll take care about the delivery. So that application can be used by many, many users from anywhere. So to sum up my presentation, this should be the key message. So we are ready. You can grow your business with us because we have the biggest local presence. In the past few years, we have built and we own more than 600 kilometers of fiber optics throughout Kosovo. We covered 85% of population with mobile broadband, and additionally, we have more than 500 Wi-Fi hotspots, which can be used also for Wi-Fi offload. So basically, what we did is combining where we are good, our own infrastructure that we build, access network, and the processing in the data center, the powerful of the processing, to enable other businesses to provide their services through us. We already started with providing machine-to-machine services. You remember the Internet of Things before. So even here, it's not new. If you think about it, kids and all of the banks, every time you pay with a card, more or less, this is called machine-to-machine, because this POS terminal has a SIM card and it's communicated with some server. So there is no direct human interaction between those two. And we are always open for new partnerships, regardless in the terms of making new business or together with the company providing the new business solution and new products onto the market. Okay, this is it from my side. Please, if there are any questions.
Well, thank you so
What's for
much.
lunch, I guess, what would be the question?
Thank you for the comprehensive presentation in such a short period. Again,
this is why I try to be really fast. I talk fast. Maybe, even though if you don't have any questions now, please, you can contact me anytime for anything. Not a problem.
well,
okay.
This is great, this opportunity to be given to the others to provide comments and inputs via email or whatever
Yeah,
means.
sure. for any kind of question.
But we can still receive one or two questions.
Please, I'll be really happy.
Yeah, the food for thought, knowing that everyone is hungry, but still we need some food for thought. So please feel free to provide input, questions, while we have our experts who really has a very creative job, in fact, from what you have presented in front of us. So we envoy you, at least myself and my colleagues.
Well, the job definitely sounds more creative than it is. There is also a lot of paperwork, you know, a lot of Excels, a lot of PowerPoints. Questions, but still, it's interesting.
Comments? Then you are all invited for lunch.
I've got a question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You spoke a lot about global terms in what is going on in the ICT industry. But if you look at the local industry and local companies, about 98% of the companies in Kosovo are between 1 and 10 employees.
Yes.
The population is quite young and tech savvy. So how are those businesses, or what are they doing, and what are you doing with those businesses to get to those young people? And how is the online sales or e-tailing, as he spoke earlier about, how is that accessible going through those local companies?
It's a great question. First of all, I see this as two separate things. So we have this young environment, the youngsters, which are actually very active, and according to some statistics, one of the most active young IT population in the immediate region. We as IPCO, we are cooperating with ICK, with STIC, to bring to one of the events, as I mentioned at the beginning, was Camp, where actually we actually enabled 100 young developers to develop apps and coach them through some business terms. On the second question regarding the businesses, this is actually what I'm focusing right now I've been focusing on this part for the past 1 year. And by the end of the year, we'll manage to come up with several new products, especially aimed for those small companies, 1 to 5 people. Actually enabling them, providing them ICT solutions, but not in terms, because let me put it frankly, it's like this. A lot of those small companies, when you mention those words, you know, Internet of Things, cloud, everyone will say, no, it's not me. I just have a shop. I don't need this. I'm selling, I don't know, here groceries. I'm not sure. So this is why we completely changed the overall concept that we developed from the beginning, and we will actually develop with some of the partners solutions, meaning direct solution for your business. We will not sell cloud services. We will sell you, I don't know, point of sale, like a mobile register. This is what we'll try to sell you. Then, I don't know, there will be, for maybe a bit larger company, some CRM. Maybe if you are a hairdresser, you need to manage your customers. So we will sell you the solution. It's going to be a cloud solution, software as a service, but the business owner doesn't have to know about this. So we are actually focusing on this segment, especially as you said, 90% of those businesses are up to 5. So this is our really main area of focus, apart from the enterprise, because with enterprise it's usually customized solution. Was there another question?
If I may, very short question.
Sure.
What would you offer in terms of the competition that is existing in Kosovo with the biggest, let's say, provider of cell phone and internet provider? What other features are going to offer in the coming, let's say, years in order to basically make this competition even better in terms of consumer benefits?
I'm thinking how to answer this question, not because I cannot share you all of our business plans, but as you remember before, as I mentioned, Telekom Slovenia venturing into the health services. We are now really on the verge of this, that we figure out, again, to be frank, the future of the mobile is data, and it's data usage. We see that we're not blind. We know that everyone uses Viber. We do as well. I mean, it's not a secret. So we have to find out interesting products, an interesting way to still make some revenues to cover the cost of operating this whole infrastructure, from the access part to the overall infrastructure. So this is why my role as a manager of the product development unit, I really deal with those kind of services, fixed services, value-added services, cloud, basically everything which is not directly related to mobile and internet. And we are, one of the things that I just explained to the gentleman here was that we will start pushing out software as a service model. But we have some ideas on what will come. But definitely one thing will link all of our new products, and this is the infrastructure. So every new product that we will launch obviously will use existing infrastructure, meaning we will use our own network to deliver you some kind of software service or a product through our infrastructure onto your mobile phone or through the mobile web or through the browser. It doesn't matter how. But we know that we are going into this way. But don't worry, we have some ideas. You'll see just in the coming months and years.
Okay, thank you very much
One
again.
more question.
One short question.
Sure.
Compare the competition, current competition in the market. Which is the competitive strategy that people is following currently?
We have no competition. No, it's not like this. I think for us, definitely, our strategy, as it was even before I came here, and it's still now, you see, if I give you the direct example, which is publicly available, internet. On the internet, we are the market leader. We have the most, almost more than 50% shares on internet. But as you see the competition and you look at our prices are actually bigger. But we are still the market leader. So this is how we approach every product that we do. We want to really give you the best possible experience. If this is a digital TV, we really look out to give you the best content, what's the best available. And if this is, I don't know, a mobile package, we want to package you with a lot of data, with a lot of minutes. So basically, our competitive strategy is we go our own way. We look at the competition, we are aware of it, obviously. Sometimes we even answer, but not that much. We let them be, but we have our own vision and mission in order how to reach our own business results and how to grow in the market. And I think so far it proved to be successful.
Okay, thank you very much again. And the lunch is served at the restaurant, so enjoy your meal.
And come back to this room after the meeting.
2011 taken by the Ministry of Finance statistical reports of the Bank of Albania, annual reports of the Bank of Albania start the econometric program that is used is EVIUS 7. The variables we have noticed: the nominal interest rate loans, CPI, the consumer price index, which serves to measure inflation, GDP, level of gross domestic product. The effect of price stability. Price stability is usually interpreted to mean a low and stable rate of inflation maintained over an extended period of time. Price stability means that inflation is sufficiently low and stable so as not to influence the economic decision of households and firms. Efficient allocate of economic resources depends on the clarity of signal coming from the price system as well as the clarity of signals from government and central banks about economic policy. General issues. In our study, we have analyzed the relationship between GDP, inflation, interest, and their role in the economic growth for the Albanian case. The real interest rate fall as inflation increases, unless nominal rates increase at the same rate as inflation. Also, in this study, we have analyzed some econometric models to see the connection that exists between variables and also to test the statistical significance of the models. Inflation is seen as enabling labor and product markets to function more smoothly in the face of shock that could otherwise reduce employment or output. Materials and methods. In this study, we have received some data from government statistics, dependence of the nominal state interest rate on loans from the consumer price index, which is used to measure inflation and measurement of GDP, gross domestic product. And we have analyzed the simple regression, evaluation of the simple linear relationship between interest rate and inflation rate, and here are the results. So we can interpret this result that we have taken from the EView7 program. The relation that exists between the two variables is given by the following equation. That means now we do the simple linear interpretation. If the CPI increases by 1 unit, then the interest rate will increase by 0.7130 units of CPI is 0, then the interest rate is 13.844. The coefficient of determination R squared is calculated by formula, and it shows as the percentage of variance of the dependent variable, and that explained by all the variables together. Also, we have tested the model with the Fisher criteria. Okay. And we have built the hypotheses that are the basic hypothesis that the model isn't important, and the alternative hypothesis that the model is important. And we have analyzed the table ANOVA and Fisher criteria, where if PV is greater than PK, then we say that the basic hypothesis is rejected, and we can accept the alternative hypothesis that means that the model is statistically significant. So we have analyzed another model that is multiple model of regression, the model in which the number of explanatory variables is greater than 1, then the regression model is called the multiple model of regression. So the relation that exists between the variables is given by the following equation. So we can do the interpretation that if CPI increases by 1 unit and the other variables independently are constant, then the interest rate will increase by 0.5038 units. If GDP increases by 1 unit and the other variables independently are constant, then the interest rate will decrease by 0. If all independently variables are 0, then the interest rate is 21.592. So here is the table that we have analyzed with the program EView7. And we can do the interpretation of multiple regression model. In the model, we do increase the number of explanatory variables. The coefficient of determination R2 will only increase. And we have the formula of the coefficient of determination R squared. So we have done the test to show the importance of model, and we have built also the hypothesis, the basic hypothesis that means that is equal to 0, and the alternative hypothesis that means that is different from 0. And finally, we have this result. The null hypothesis will be rejected, and we have used the student criteria, and the model finally is statistically significant. We have used another model, statistic model, that is one test, and also we have built the hypothesis, the basic hypothesis that is equal to 0. That means that the model is important, and the alternative hypothesis that is different to 0. That means the model isn't important. So this is the table that we have received by the program EDU7. And now do the interpretation. In this case, we see from the table, from the student criteria, that TV criteria is 5.757 and greater than TK, that is equal 1.96. And the null hypothesis is rejected, and thus means that the partial coefficients that 2 and 3 are not equal. Result and discussions. In this study, we have analyzed the dependence of the nominal state interest rate on loans from the consumer price index, which is used to measure inflation and measurement of GDP, gross domestic product. The nominal interest rate is the rate quoted in the loan and deposit agreements. The relationship between inflation and both real the nominal interest rate is the real interest rate fall as inflation increases, unless nominal rates increase at the same rate as inflation. In our study, we have analyzed some econometric models that we have seen before to see the connection that exists between variables and also to test the statistical significance of the model. Conclusions. In this study, we initially analyzed the simple linear regression to explain the relationship between interest rate and inflation rate. The simple linear regression was the first type of regression analysis to be used intensively in the partial application. This is because models which depend linearly on their known parameters are easier to fit than models which are non-linearly related to their parameters, and because the statistical properties of the resulting estimation are easier to determine.
Okay, Ms. Eliona Deda, I think we should stop here because I'm sure your
And
presentation...
references, so biography, and thank you.
Okay, thank you for the very comprehensive presentation. I believe that the presentation of Ms. Eliona has raised a lot of provocative thoughts, so I welcome your questions and comments. Questions? Comments? Well, Ms. Eliona has a very legitimate reason to leave us because her baby is waiting for her, so we thank her and thank you so much for your contribution.
Having in mind that most of us here are part of academia coming from different universities, and the topic of today's discussion is sustainable development, we should also think of the role of education in sustainable development. And in that sense, I would now invite the presentation on the paper Education as one of the core indicators of sustainable development, a comparative analysis of the Western Balkans by authors Bojan Krstić, Jelena Stanojević, and Tanja Stanisic. Jelena Stanojević.
I'm a lecturer in economics at International Business College Mitrovica. On behalf of my colleagues from University of Niš in Serbia, Tanja Stanisic and Bojan Krstić, I will say something about education as one of the core indicators of sustainable development, a comparative analysis of the Western Balkans. Since we had very good introduction on sustainable development in plenary session by our respected key speakers, I'm not going to spend too much time on this theoretical background. We know that sustainable development is growth that needs to be inclusive environmentally in order to reduce poverty and to create current prosperity, but at the same time having in mind the needs of future generations. Sustainable development consists of 3 dimensions and components. This is economic, environmental, and social. All these 3 components are of equal importance, and there is necessary to have balance between them. So there are synergy between them, but also there is trade-off. In order to meet the challenge of sustainable development and to respond to decisions, policies which are related to sustainable development, it's necessary to have appropriate indicators or measure of sustainable development. Not only measure or indicators of sustainable development to measure this progress, this is also that they contribute to rising awareness of importance of sustainable development. The Commission on Sustainable Development has developed sets of indicators, and they have revised over years several times in order to respond to challenges. The last version of these indicators includes the 50 indicators which belong to 14 the main themes, such as poverty, governance, health, education, and so on. Which means that actually education is one of core indicators of sustainable development. Education, as this one of 14 the main themes of sustainable development, includes its own 9 indicators, such as adult literacy rate, youth literacy rate, population with at least some secondary education, gross enrollment ratio, pre-primary, primary, secondary, tertiary, primary school dropout rates, and expenditure on education. Human Development Report, developed by United Nations Development Program, is information base for this research. And research results are grouped into 2 segments. Comparative analysis of indicators of education in the Western Balkan countries compared to world's and EU average, and examining the relationship between the level of education and GDP per capita in the Western Balkan countries. The aim of this research is actually to analyze the position of Western Balkan countries in relation to education and compared to EU average and world average. So now I'm going to, on these figures, to show these education indicators. Here are, as you can see, are 3 out of 9 education indicators. And for first 2, literacy rate, adult, and literacy rate, youth, for all analyzed Western Balkan countries are almost the same values, which means that there are no differences, and even we can say that those countries have higher values or results compared to world average. There are some differences if you talk about when it comes to population with at least some secondary education. And we can say that, for example, for these values, Croatia, Montenegro, and Albania have the highest value, and on the other hand, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Macedonia, Serbia have a lower value regarding population with at least some secondary education. On next figure, there are 4 next indicators of education. And unfortunately, not for all indicators are available data for all this analyzed period from 2005 to 2012 in Human Development Report. So for some information, actually, some information are missing. But for first gross enrollment ratio, pre-primary, there are actually the highest value is recorded in Albania, followed by Croatia, Montenegro, and Serbia, and these values are higher than world average. For gross enrollment ratio, primary, secondary, and tertiary, unfortunately, values are lower than EU average. What is not encouraging actually are two last indicators of education: primary school dropout rate and expenditure on education. Primary school dropout rates is extremely, the values of this indicator are extremely high for Montenegro and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and this is almost the same, or actually higher compared to world average, but much higher compared to EU average. On the other hand, expenditure on education is for all these analyzed countries lower compared to world and EU average. Unfortunately, again, for Macedonia and Bosnia and Herzegovina are not available data in Human Development report regarding this expenditure. On this table, now we can see the Western Balkan countries, analyzed countries, education, regarding mean years of schooling. This is average number of years of education received by people ages 25 and older, and GDP per capita. So from this table, we can see that Montenegro has the highest value of mean years of schooling, and at the same time, the highest GDP per capita for this analyzed period from 2005 to 2012. The country with the lowest mean years of schooling is Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Albania has the lowest GDP per capita in this period. I'm not going to show the correlation analysis table, but actually I will just explain what is conclusion and what are results from this correlation analysis between GDP per capita and education indicators. There is high positive correlation between education measured by mean years of schooling and GDP per capita in Western Balkan countries. Also, there is high positive correlation between adult literacy rate and GDP per capita. What does this mean? That countries with higher GDP per capita have higher value of mean years of schooling and adult literacy rate. On the other hand, there is negative value of correlation between primary school dropout rates and GDP per capita, which means that countries with higher GDP per capita rates have lower primary school dropout rates. What is concluded by authors of this research is actually that Croatia is a leading country in analyzed Western Balkan countries in relation to education, followed by Albania, Montenegro, and Serbia, which actually record high values of these education indicators. Unfortunately, countries with the lowest value of analyzed indicators are Macedonia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, but again, unfortunately, all of these analyzed Western Balkan countries have lower values compared to EU average. What is worrying is actually primary school dropout rate, which is higher in Montenegro and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and low or not enough expenditure on education in these Western Balkan countries. There is positive correlation between GDP and education, which means that actually GDP is a very important factor and determinant of economic growth of one country and economy. And thank you.
Thank you, Elena, for reminding us of the education as an indicator of sustainable development. I would open the floor for questions, comments.
One question. Why don't you have not included Kosovo in your analysis?
This analysis is based on Human Development report, so all countries.
The data of Kosovo are incorporated in Serbia or what?
Usually in statistics for Serbia, it's noted that this is data without Kosovo, so it's always...
So we don't have pictures
which
of
means
Kosovo?
it's not available data.
I got the answer.
Any other questions?
How do you explain the situation with Albania where you have the lowest GDP per capita, but on the other hand doesn't stand very low on education and other educational indicators?
This is probably an exception for this country, since can analyze analyzed all these Western Balkan countries in total, there is correlation between GDP per capita and education, all indicators. But for Albania, it's, for example, probably exception, which means that always we cannot always rely on results. There is some kind of exception.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Jelena. To achieve sustainable development is a high goal, and for achieving high goals, you need certain strategy. So now I would like to invite Ms. Eltene Abdullahu with her presentation on the role of competitive strategies to develop a strong competitive advantage.
We are all aware that we are living in a world with a strong competition, so the business that are aware that they need to be competitive in the market in order to sustain. So therefore me and my colleague Vjosa have chosen this topic, the role of competitive strategies on developing a strong competitive advantage. Aim and objectives. The aim of this paper is to investigate the competitive strategies that a local construction company implements in developing and transition country. And the objectives, the main objective is to explore competitive strategies of a local construction company. Then we have two sub-objectives that are mainly used in order to come with conclusions for this case study. So the two sub-objectives are to establish the importance of competitive strategies used as a crucial competitive advantage. And the other one is to assess potential areas for future development of Kosovar companies' competitive strategies. So we have reviewed the existing literature, Porter, Kotler, different definitions for the strategy. I don't want to go through all of them. But for this, as Porter has, this I would like to mention, Porter has proposed 3 generic strategies, which are known as winning strategies that provide a good starting point for strategic thinking. It's cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. Normally, the companies that pursue a clear strategy, one of these above mentioned in the previous slide, are more likely to perform well. And firms that do not pursue a clear strategy, so-called middle of the roads, do the worst. For this paper, we have as methodology, we have worked on the research. We have used a single case study approach to explore the competitive strategies of a local construction company, how this company creates a strong competitive advantage in the market. And also we have used other methods such as synthesis, induction, and generalizations. Those are used mainly in order to come to the conclusions. So here is the construction industry analysis. We have gone through the data of statistical agency in Kosovo, and we have the figures of the registered construction companies in the first quarter of 2015. It was 237 new entrants, and in 2014 it was 284. If we compare these results, we can see that there is a decrease in these results that mainly could arise as decrease of demand or lower profits or strong competition. From all these companies that develop their, that are in the market, we have chosen only one. It's LIM project. LIM project was established early in the 90s. It was established by an engineer of architecture, Yusuf Haji Mehmeti. He has worked previously in Directorate of Urbanism and Special Planning, so he has gained a lot of practical knowledge in order to run his business. And mainly at the beginning, it was designed to, it had worked with design of small and residential facilities. LIM project provides products, professional services, and proposes solutions to the needs of its market. It has experienced growth in design, in construction, manufacturing, and building new partnership across Kosovo and the region, in Albania and in Montenegro. Currently, this company has a very important role in the employment of city of Mitrovica, because currently over 100 employees are working there. Now we have here mission, vision, and values. I don't want to go through all of this, but you can see, for example, vision, we provide a better environment. The people and the best technology provide the best solution. I would like to add something here, because this company is a group, the employees of this company are a group of engineers that are working very professionally, and they are keeping, since the owner, Yusuf Haji Mehmeti, has experience in urbanism, so he keeps his mind, he keeps his potential to work in accordance with the procedures in order to be licensed, in order that their products and services will not have any kind of, in the future in the market. And they also put attention on the innovation, cost-effective, creative choices for their customers' needs. This company is in Mitrovica, and basically it was only in Mitrovica, in Mitrovica market. During the war, Mitrovica most of the houses were burnt, so the demand for housing has increased dramatically. Therefore, this company initially started with the rebuilding of the houses, but building of the houses was not enough. Therefore, they decided to build buildings in order to fulfill the customer needs. And they were the first company in Mitrovica region that have built buildings. So as the theories say, being the first is better than being the best, then this was sort of advantage over their competitors. Being a market leader in the region of Mitrovica provided the company to create goodwill and easier to penetrate in other regions of Kosovo. So they have penetrated in the market of Pristina. But when the company decided to extend their operations in Pristina market, it was not easy actually. It was challenging, new, tough, and bigger competitors. So the management of that company, they have to decide which strategy they need to follow. Therefore, to choose differentiation as they previously did in the Mitrovica region was not a good solution because of the tough competitors. So they decided to change the strategy from differentiation to hybrid strategy, which suit better in Pristina region. So they offered high quality construction services with affordable prices. Conclusions. Bearing in mind that all the companies they should adapt to the business environment, I would like to quote Charles Darwin that it's not important to be the strongest to survive or the most intelligent, but it is important to be the most responsive to change. So this was the case with the LIM project, because they were able to change the strategies, they were able to adapt to the demands of the market, they were able to adapt to the business environment. So changing strategies and adapting to the business environment presents the strengths of this company that give conviction of long-run operations of this company in the future. What me and my colleague have seen and what we would like to suggest to this company is that they don't put that much effort on the commercialization of their products and services. They have, when we made an interview with Ferkiaji Mehmeti, he said that our best way to market our products are the satisfied customers, because a satisfied customer is the best promoter of your products. Therefore, we think that for the moment this is a good solution, but bearing in mind the strong competition, we would advise to the company to invest more in marketing. Thank you very much for your attention.